All right, tonight we've got Joshua Black here. He's working on his PhD about grief dreams, and he's got a podcast as well. We'll talk about doing all this research into grief dreams, which is with a special focus on dreams of the deceased. So this should be really interesting. He's I've checked out a little bit of his podcast and stuff like that, and got some personal stories to share with him to see what he thinks. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Joshua.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, fellow Canadian as well. Forgot to mention.
Nothing wrong with being Canadian.
That's right. Sorry about that. So I don't know. I want to hold off a little bit for my personal stories, but I definitely have some to get for you to get your take on. I mean, we might as well start with I guess what you're doing with your research and how you're moving forward with your PhD on this. Just give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, so it's going really well. So I'm in my last year of the PhD program, and I'm just really excited about the work that I am doing and the next study I have.
Okay.
On the foresight. So I guess to go back is actually I did my MA also in this area, so I have a lot of experience, a lot of research on this subject. So the most recent study I did, it looked at why do certain people have dreams of the deceased and others don't. So what kind of factors predict dreaming of the deceased? And then the newest one that I'm going to be looking at is why do some people have negative dreams of the deceased and others have positive dreams? Because those are the most common questions I get when talking to bereaved and when talking to those who work with them. And there's no current answers available because this topic hasn't really been explored. So we really know very little about this area, which is so surprising for me.
Yeah, totally.
Well, to me, it seems like we don't know a whole lot about dreams, period.
Well, that's because you don't dream. That's why.
Well, actually, from what I hear, I do dream. I just don't remember them.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Good answer. I like that. Yeah. It's true. There's not a lot of research. There is research out there, especially on nightmares, like dreams after trauma. But when it comes to dreams after grief, after someone passed away, there's not much at all. And what there is that's out there doesn't really answer questions for the bereaved. So a lot of people give really bad advice in this area. A lot of people just don't know how to talk about it, so they push it away. And so this is why I do what I do, is to raise awareness and to allow people to start sharing these experiences that can be very, very profound and life-changing for the most part. So yeah, I can't wait to, I don't know, I could talk about anything right now. So I'm going to let you guys sort of choose where we go from here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Should I get into my personal story with my sister and I, Darren, or should we get some more background first? Because we've done some talks. We talk about lucid dreams all the time on the show.
Yeah, we do a ton of dream stuff. Yeah, I guess.
Nothing like this, though.
No, I guess, yeah. Like how did you, what got you, how did you end up down this road?
It wasn't by choice. I'll tell you that. When in my undergrad, I actually wanted to, I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. And so, as you can see, I'm not that right now. And so what happened was my last year, my father actually passed away. And it was the first time I actually dealt with a loss of someone that was really close to me. Mm-hmm. And it was a shock. I didn't know. I thought, being so naive that, a breakup of, someone, a girlfriend was similar to the feelings you get over after someone dies. But it's not really the same. And so I was in this perplexed sort of state, kind of numb, not knowing how to figure out these emotions that were going through me. And I had all sorts of crazy thoughts. I wanted to drop out of school and travel to Israel, where my dad really wanted me to go. Huh. And I just didn't know really what to do. And so the best thing I did was I went back to school. I pushed the feelings down like any good man does. and you just keep moving forward. But life wasn't the same, and I wasn't that happy, and the people around me didn't know how to help me, just because my friends never dealt with their own loss at that time. Mm-hmm. So really, it was just about 3 months after he passed away, I had a dream. And in the dream, I was in my bed, in my room, and he was in the distance at the other end, looking through some of my clutter. And he turned around smiling. So I got out of bed and I'm like, Dad. And I walked up to him and I said, I'm really going to miss you, acknowledging that he was dead. And I said, I love you. And we hugged and I woke up. But the crazy thing was when I woke up, I felt different than when I went to bed. Like there was just like this new lease on life. I was like, oh man, that was so amazing. It was just something changed when I woke up. And I should mention why it was so important, that type of dream for me at that time, was because my dad died very suddenly and I never had a chance to say goodbye. So you can understand why there was probably some kind of like looking back, I'm like, there's probably some kind of block within me that actually helped undo. And
yeah, it's almost like closure, even, you know?
Yeah. It's something they never got to do. And it helped me move forward and process the loss. And, you know, I didn't tell anyone, which is the strangest thing. Because at that time, like, oh, it just helped me. So I just moved on, did what I need to do. I continued school. But because he died, he actually was the one that wanted me to be an elementary school teacher. And so when he died, I had no drive to actually be an elementary school teacher. So I just decided not to do that. And I took a year off and I didn't know what to do. So I just did what I knew best, was like to help people. And so I went and helped the bereaved. And a lot of these people kept talking about these dreams they're having, or dreams that they wanted to have that they weren't having. And that's when I looked into the academic literature to see, okay, like how can I help these people? And there was absolutely nothing there. It was like with all the training I've done, I was so shocked because we've been alive since, you know, for forever. And we've probably been having these dreams since the beginning, since we were alive. So it's just like, this is not something new. It's like, it's been going on for our existence, but yet no one's really taken the time to actually look at that with any sort of real detail. And so I said, okay, like either I'm gonna have to wait for someone or I'll do it myself. And, you know, not being a patient guy, I decided to do it myself. And that's when I, you know, like where I was living at the time, I checked out a school, Trent University, and there was a person who studied dreams. I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. And so I talked to her and yeah, she accepted me, and that's what started everything. But it wasn't until I actually got into my MA and started doing the research and asking different organizations to help me with my research that I saw this different world of problems that people go through and biases and judgments. It's just like, and the stories that came through too are just like, some are really amazing, some are very like sad. So, and I'm like, this is a bigger field than I even knew going in, because at that time I only had positive dreams. And like, so it was just, it's wild how far I've come and how much I've known through the, what has it been, 6 years now, actually in this field. So yeah, like the stories are just endless, and there's like, some of them are just like very paranormal. You're just like, you're like, what is going on here? And it just makes you sort of sit in the mystery of sort of this life.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you is about, you know, did this change your perception of reality at all? Because it must have mixed in and overlapped with research into lucid dreaming and after-death communication and all this kind of like sort of spiritual world stuff. Were you open to that before? Or did this really change your sort of paradigm, or or maybe you haven't? I mean, did you open up to that possibility?
Yeah, so before that dream, because that was like, I should mention that dream was very, very vivid, more like, it's almost more real than real. It was just like, it was an interesting dream that I've had maybe one or two like that in my entire life. Yeah. And so it definitely had some meaning. But before that, like I grew up in a home where my parents told me, like it was a Christian home, and they told me that dreams were from the devil. So I never really tried to I never had a positive feeling about dreams. And then if I did, I tried to sort of repress them or forget about them, so, you know, the devil didn't visit me in the night. But so what happened was, when I had suffered a breakup, it was probably 6 years prior to this dream, 6 years prior to my dad passing away. And what happened was, I was like just looking for an answer, and I had this vivid dream that basically told me what I was looking for. And it helped me like problem solve in life. And it was very vivid and very different than anything I ever had before. And it was the first moment I realized dreams were different. Like not all, like there's something to this world of what's going on that I'd never experienced before. I never let myself experience before. And so, yeah, like I knew dreams were valuable as I moved forward, but this was different because this is like, it felt like a visitation. It gave me sort of that closure. And at that time, I did believe in an afterlife. And so I did sort of see it as my dad coming to me, and like how beautiful that was. So, you know, like I never there's other dreams after that I wouldn't say would be a visitation, which really was bizarre because very similar imagery, but the feeling was different. And I'm like, man, like what's going on here? Like and I hear people, they don't know if it's a visitation or not. And I don't like try to judge it. I just let them believe whatever they need to believe if it's a comforting experience for them.
Yeah.
But there's just these different feelings you get. And I'm just so perplexed, like why that is. Like there's so many different types of dreams you can have. There's not just, one dream, like, or one type of dream. There's so many different things. And yeah, like you said, we don't really know why that is. And like, it'd be great if we could actually program ourselves to have these experiences every night.
Yeah, totally. I feel like there's different levels, different types and different levels. Like sometimes you're deep into it and it's more like you are in a different dimension or there's a different sort of reality there. And sometimes it's more of a surface level. You're just sort of cruising through some sort of surface dream world. But to people, like, was there types of precognitive experiences through, dreaming of deceased loved ones or anything like that? Did you catch some of that overlap as well?
Yeah, like it's fascinating how, like, before I didn't, I just had my own experiences and other people's, but like the more you do this work, the more you hear these stories and people just like come out and like tell you. And yeah, there's the precog dream of people knowing, in advance that their loved one was going to die. And, like in that, and it's interesting because a lot of people, if they do have, like, if they do have that dream, they may feel almost like a sense of guilt or a sense that they were supposed to do something and they didn't do it. Mm-hmm. But I never really see it as that. I see it as just like preparation, for you in some way, to get your mind to sort of think about it. But the issue with a lot of these precog dreams is maybe if you have one, then you start thinking all your dreams are precog. Like people have a hard time differentiating, what's a precog and what's not. And so, that's the biggest issue when people tell me different stories or they have these experiences, they can really get caught in this fear of, oh my God, they're going to die. Or if, like, they had a dream of someone drowning and they're like, oh my God, like, it must be precog. I won't let them buy water anymore. And you're like, I don't know. It's probably a fear you have to begin with, because with dream research, it basically has shown that your fears, your anxieties, all that sort of stuff goes into your dreams. And so if that's a fear you have or something you've been worrying about, it's probably that. But there are these cases where people like have these experiences and it's a foretelling of the death. But even so there's that. There's also, which I love, is these dreams that of the deceased, which is very similar to, you would have like I would call it a visitation dream or just a comforting dream where they say goodbye or that they love you. And you have it in the night. They're alive still while you went to bed. But then when you wake up, you get a phone call saying they died during the night. And you had this dream, but there's no way you could have known that the person died. But yet in the dream, they're saying goodbye. So it's like, you're like, what? Like it just makes you like, it wraps your head around what's going on, because they shouldn't have known that the person died, but they did because of the dream. So like there's that. I don't know if you guys have questions on that stuff, but it's absolutely fascinating. And you can even go forward when it comes to the deceased, like answering questions, which is like kind of very like paranormal and almost. And so sometimes it's, if you're looking for something like a will, the deceased may come and basically show you where it is. I remember I got this one dream where this woman was talking about her father passed away, and her father was getting sued. His corporation was getting sued, but he's dead, so she didn't know where the papers were. So she was having a difficult time because she needed the papers to actually win the court battle. And then she had this dream where she was in the storage unit and there was a bunch of boxes everywhere. And then the deceased father was there and he went over to this coat. It was on this like barrel thing. And then he opened up the coat and showed it to her. And then she woke up. So she went to the storage unit, and of course the coat's there with this like barrel thing, and she opened it up and all the paperwork was underneath the coat.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you're just like what do you say to that?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. This is the thing. Does it always
seem to have that emotional connection? Like it seems like it has to be like that was her dad. So there's probably there's a lot of emotions flying around there. Like you can't hear of like someone who's it's like their great grandpa that they never met and they dream about them.
Yeah, no, I think that's in there.
Something. Does that happen as well, or is it always some sort of emotional?
Usually they know the person. I don't know if I've gotten anything from someone who dreamt of someone they'd never met before.
Because I find like emotion tends to play a big role in that, you know, whenever you start crossing dimensions.
Well, it definitely play a big point in that.
And grief is like probably one of the most powerful emotions. So I mean, that's probably if you can bend whatever it is you're bending, that seems like one of the times it would be happening.
Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, it's just like, you're right. Like, grief is such an emotional journey, because the big thing is you think you're never going to see them again, and then you have this moment where you're seeing them again, and like what that does to you. And what's fascinating is that you don't need to believe that it's a visitation for it to have immense healing effects on you. Yeah, and I think that like that's something new I learned as I was doing this. I remember I was doing a talk, and I did the stuff, and then this woman came up to me saying, you know, I had this dream where I was dancing with my grandfather, and before the dream, I was so depressed and I was just grieving hard. We were just dancing. She said it was the most peaceful feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. And then I woke up, and she's like, I've never felt grief for this event ever again. She said, I was like healed. I was like, that's fascinating. Not only because she was healed, and she said, I don't believe it was a visitation. So she didn't need that definition on it for it to have healing effects, but she also said it was the most peaceful feeling she's ever felt. So like in the dream world, like she had a new feeling, because I think there's so much anxieties that we carry on like in waking life. There's something about, you know, if you can get into that place where it is peaceful, like I wonder what that does in itself. Like, so is it the dream, or is it just this peaceful place that's actually doing the work? I don't know.
That's a great point. I mean, really, what if you are experiencing new emotions in there, and it opens up a whole different level of contentment or happiness, or just a whole new paradigm? That's crazy.
Yeah, like if you, for a moment, like even you think in your own life, like there's not one moment you're not thinking about something, you're not like worrying about like that stuff's always there. You're thinking about the past and the future. And like in meditation, you're trying to get to that point where you're focused on, you know, just a moment, which is very difficult. But this, like the dream world, it could be done, right? Like in a dream, I'm not worried about the past or the future, you know, like for the most part. You're usually just in the moment. And if the circumstances are right in the dream, then it could actually play a huge role in the healing process. Yeah. Yeah.
Before I forget to touch on the thing you mentioned right at the beginning, which was what you were getting into recently, was like, why do people have dreams of the deceased, and what types of people? And you mentioned something else, and I didn't make a note of it, but there was a couple points there that I found really interesting. Like you're digging into why of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, that's because those are the major concerns people have. So the first question is, you know, why are some people having these dream experiences and others aren't? Right. Because a lot of people were coming up to me, and even people who worked with the bereaved came up to me and basically said, you know, like why is this going on? Because the bereaved sometimes will, if they believe it's a visitation and they're not getting it, they'll say, oh, maybe they went to hell, you know, because they believe in this dichotomy and they can't visit. Maybe say they went to heaven, but they just don't love me anymore. Like they just became a soul and just vanished into doing something new. Other ones say, oh, they're mad at me. They're holding back their visit because I had to sell the house, or they didn't like the funeral, or something, right? That always goes wrong in after loss. So they feel this guilt. Other times it's like they're in limbo and they just can't go. So there's a lot of these complications people put on themselves, and there's never been anything like you could say that maybe it's not that, you know, like that's nice that it's your theory. And it's funny how our theories tend to actually hurt us better than help us. And so I'm like, let's actually look at it scientifically. Can there be another thing we can give them, or a reason, explanation for why they're not having a dream? And so we looked at different things from, you know, personality traits, openness to experience, to attachment styles. We looked at grief intensity, and we looked at dream recall. And what was found was the biggest predictor and the most unique predictor of them all was dream recall. Huh. So what it's saying is that the more you remember your dreams, the more likely you're going to remember one of these dreams. And so it also goes with the theory that people are probably dreaming of the deceased more than they're remembering it. And that's a huge finding to be able to say that or to support that theory, because now you're saying, okay, it's not them. It may actually be you.
Yeah, it sounds like your subconscious fears and your assumptions about why or why not you're being visited play a major part into whether you are or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe you're not even remembering them subconsciously because you think that you're not supposed to be visited, or there's some blockage there when really it's been happening.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about remembering dreams is, we're dreaming throughout our entire night. But for whatever reason, we only remember certain dreams, and it's still a mystery on why. Like research hasn't figured that out yet. But this is just another example of that. And I can see if someone really didn't, I know there's certain people that have a belief that they're in heaven and then they're not allowed to sort of talk to you or whatever. And so if they did have a dream, they wouldn't want to even remember it because it'd be actually discomforting because it'd go against all their belief systems, right? So, I can see you're probably, what you believe has an impact in that and, what you're really longing for. I think there's some people who, but also their grief may play a huge role in that. But at the end of the day, it's it's been only a couple studies. I looked at it through after spousal loss and also through pet loss, and so that's another one. So and they're both saying very similar things, but there's different things that can affect recall, and grief's one of them. So and the big thing with grief is that you have more nocturnal awakenings. So it really disrupts your sleep. And so the more nocturnal awakenings you have, the higher probability you have of actually remember these dreams. So it's not that you're grieving, it's about you're actually waking up during the night and you have a better probability of catching these or just remembering a dream in general.
No, keep going.
No, I was going to say about understanding that, just realizing, okay, so it's about dream recall and there's ways to actually increase your dream recall. And the first thing is to take all dreams as meaningful. And by doing this, you can keep a dream diary. That's a really good way of doing that. Start talking about your dreams with others, asking people about their dreams, not just like dreams of the deceased, but just all dreams, because that's the goal, right? If you can increase your dream recall, then you'll have a higher probability of probably remembering these dreams. I remember when I did that, I usually remember one dream a night, and I started doing a dream journal. I started remembering like 4 or 5 a night, and I just couldn't take it. So I actually had to stop, and now I'm back to 1. So I know for me it worked, and yeah.
Yeah, it worked for me a bit too. I mean, it was hard because it takes that extra few minutes in the morning. And you got to do it right away. Like I started using a voice recorder on my phone instead of writing it down because I would just scribble shit down in a journal. I couldn't even decipher it later on. I was so tired. So I'd just click on the voice app and just blurt it out into my phone. But was there any things that behaviorally that you found that people would stop people from remembering dreams, like smoking too much pot or stuff like that?
No, I haven't actually looked at that yet, but I know there are certain medications out there that can disrupt your dream recall or increase the negative dreams you have. So it can sort of have an effect in that way, but in exactly what those are, I'm not too sure. But it would state there should be studies out there that looked at some of that stuff. But I don't know if there's any drug to increase dream recall. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I think there's some that
or teas maybe.
Yeah, teas.
I think it'd be more like herbal stuff, I bet.
Yeah, there's
it's hard to know.
Yeah, I bought a supplement called lucidamine, and then apparently if you take it with 5-HTP and a couple other things like that, you can increase it, but it didn't really seem to do anything for me.
But it's tough too because just because it says it on a label doesn't mean it actually is true. It could be that it just opens you up because you believe. It's like the placebo effect. You start believing, right? That it's supposed to help, so you do start.
Yeah,
and it could just be valuing dreams that have nothing to do with what you're taking.
Yeah, that's a good point. It could be the act of it more so than the herb. But I mean, there's a couple things like galantamine, I think, that is well known for hundreds of years to help with dreams. So I mean, there are some interesting, sort of ancient tools to help.
Yeah, which the shamans probably would have some, different herbs and like ceremonies and stuff to increase dream recall. Yeah, so there's probably stuff out there. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to endorse anything on here except except the Dream Journal.
Exactly. No, that is a powerful thing. I mean, and of course we went through the whole lucid dreaming thing here too, where we, you figured out there's the wake back to bed, and there's all these different methods of trying to become lucid, and wake up and for a half hour in the morning and go back to sleep, and it's easier to become lucid there, which kind of in some ways helps with dream recall as well. I mean, because the whole act of trying to become lucid, a huge part of that is trying to remember your dreams. Yeah,
I've only had one lucid dream my entire life.
Yeah, it's
so
hard.
It's pretty cool. But,
yeah. So go ahead.
No, you can go.
Well, I was going to talk about. Do you want to get into my sister's experience here then? We'll get the personal, get your take on this.
Yeah.
So,
let's do it.
So my dad passed away as well. And a few years, I'm going to sort of ramble on a little bit here, but I'd really like your take on this, Joshua, because I talked to her about it yesterday just to get it fresh in my head. But I've always remembered this. And there's some sort of different components to it. But basically, she's had a few different dreams that she's thought of, and it's the same way you said it, like it was more than a dream. It was like a visitation and a journey with my dad. So I think one of the first ones she had is
Who's she?
My sister. My sister.
Oh, your sister.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there was all these spirits on the balcony. And she was scared to go out there, but she knew my dad was there, and so she felt safe. And I think she was leaving a couple friends that were partying in her place. And it was a dream of her place in West Van, which was kind of overlooking the water a little bit. And Dad took her on this journey through the stars and like all around the planets in this thing, and he was explaining to her how it was like the potential of this, and how you could take pictures of it or visualize it, or there was some sort of art. How would I even say it? Like, it was kind of about the space and the art and the potential of it. And the interesting thing is, my sister ended up in virtual reality business and the gaming business, developing like these actual, not her developing it, but working for the companies that developed this thing. So that wasn't the main thing. But one of the things was she was on this balcony. There was a bunch of monks there telling her a secret, and they were whispering to her about the secret. You have to watch The Secret and all this. And they showed her a bunch of symbols and everything. And she always remembered that being there. And a week later, her friend gave her The Secret to watch, that movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it changed her life. Actually, that was part of one of my big shifts in life as well, was through that Secret. So my dad and these monks, they even showed her on an old TV, apparently, this thing. So that's a couple dreams there where Dad was really, really present in a visitation type way. And then
let's talk about that. I think that's really amazing that she had that dream, and it turned out to be very helpful, and it connected to something that was coming to her in the future. So it almost has this like precognitive quality to like really look out for this thing of the secret, as you sort of talked about. That sort of helped shift her. I think that's really cool. She actually, her dad took her through the stars. That's correct, right?
Yeah, man. Took her through space. Like, took her on a flight, like sort of flew her through space and explained to her, like, you can see all this, or this is like the potential of, and all this beautiful like sights of planets and stars and galaxies and stuff.
She actually experienced something she never would experience in reality.
Exactly.
Like, as a human, I think that's wild.
Yeah, and the other thing she said to me is, we told Dad to contact us from the other side before he passed away. We were telling him that, like, Dad, contact us from the other side. Like,
did you ever say, like, how?
No. No, I don't know. I don't remember.
That's very ambiguous to him.
Yeah. So he's like, "Well, how do you want me to do that?" We should have been more specific. So then she went to a psychic a couple years after that, and she lined this up and told me and my mom. So she had evidence. She says, "I want the psychic to tell me that Dad has been visiting me through dreams that are more than dreams. She specifically told my mom and me about that. She went to the psychic and she has a recording, and the psychic said, your dad's been visiting you in your dreams, and those are more than dreams.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, crazy.
I love that. I love that because it really helps her believe even more, right? And helps you believe even more that there's something more.
Yeah,
than,
like I'm not sure why she wanted to do that.
And also, like, what is that? So it makes you even more curious to sort of what's going on in this sort of afterlife.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how does the psychic know that? And then how does dad, how does dad does make contact with her? And it does change her life. Like that Secret movie, she ended up copying it. And I mean, you can say there's all these, negative things about that movie as well, but it did change a lot of people's lives. I mean, she made copies and passed it around to her friends. She gave it to me, and it took me years to watch it. And when I finally did, that was a turning point in my life too, actually.
Yeah. And I think it's really what it's about because, there's negative stuff in a lot of different things and how they say it and what they focus on. But like if you can take something to propel you forward in your own healing and your own self-love and what's possible, then man, that's a great thing. And I think that's why even with these dreams, the one thing I commonly hear, and I'm guessing this is what you guys feel too, is a sense that you're still being almost cared for, you're being watched over, and you're also you're still loved. And there's something to say about that and those feelings because, in the grief journey, that's one of those things that hits us the hardest is that, that they're not there physically anymore, but you're not getting their love anymore because they're not physically there. So you're transitioning into, you're not seeing them physically, but they're still loving you. So you're only having to come to terms with one thing, which is seeing them physically there, but you still have their love.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, I don't know if people would think about it that way. Huh.
Yeah, well, like you hear so many dreams, you start like seeing a pattern, and that's one of the biggest ones. So when it comes to comforting themes, like when the deceased comes, they're usually saying they're okay, first of all. And the second one was that they love you in some way or that there's a feeling of love. And you wonder, why is that? Because they could do anything, but why that? And you have such a short time together, usually. That's usually shorter than other dreams. And so like, what's the most impact they can have on your life? And it's usually those feelings, because that's what you're longing for in waking life. So a lot of these people, when we look at dreams, we know that dreams reflect waking life. And so by looking at this stuff, any kind of dream, negative or positive, even these positive visitation type dreams, what's amazing is it still reflects your waking life, because if it's a spirit, they would know what you need. And so it's reflecting, what you're going through. And so they say remarkable things in such a short time. Like I remember this one dream where this girl was just, she was on the bed and she was crying, and then her brother came and basically says, like, there's nothing you could have done, babe. Things are just supposed to happen that way. And it changed her life because she was at that time thinking she had all this guilt that she could have saved them and all this sort of stuff. So it's in one line, it's like this stuff just changes people. So I think that's really cool. But yeah. So what's the next dream she had?
Well, no, that was pretty much, I think that was the two sort of main ones. I mean, she's had a couple more since then, but it was really like the ones with the monk and the spirits on the balcony, and then the space journey as well. So is there negative ones that, like, have people had negative visitations or negative dreams about deceased ones, and did that provide any healing at all, or is there any examples of that?
Yeah, so for the negative dreams, they are common. They're not as common as these comforting type themes. So first, there's the almost like reliving the trauma over again. So this is like the deceased is dead, dying, or ill throughout the whole dream. And so this is very sad, like to even like get, because the person's dying again and they're trying to save them, they can't, or they're just dead through the whole dream. And so just like it's just very traumatic for them. And so a lot of people actually don't want to go to bed because they start having these dreams, these negative dreams. And so that's why I'm trying to really raise awareness how there's so many different types of these dreams. And there's some people get so much bad advice. Some people say, oh, that's, like people, some people say like a negative dream is actually a visitation. It's just the only way for you to remember it, which is really bad. I would never say that. It probably just reflects your waking life in some way, something you're going through.
Yeah.
And so there's, so there's the other one where they're not dying, so they're alive again. But this time they're actually causing you discomfort in some way. So they could be chasing you. They'd be, criticizing you for something you've done. Maybe you sold the house and they're criticizing you, or you started a new relationship and they're criticizing you. And so these dreams, some people will take as a negative visitation or haunting if they, I had a couple of people say that. And so the issue with that is what we know about dream research is that dreams after trauma or after any kind of negative event, those dreams should be negative. And so you should be having negative dreams of your deceased just because of what you're going through. And what I'm finding is that before you start leaping to say they're haunting me, start looking at your grief. Is there something going on with that? Do you have any blocks? And usually it's very easy. You have anger towards something, them, the doctors, someone else, or you have guilt for something you've done. And they're just basically, that dream is just a reflection, is like a mirror to sort of what you're actually not, what you're going through and what you still need to work through. And so I always say, work on those issues first before you start jumping to negative haunting or something. Because the reality is, what my research is showing, that people who have negative dreams will also tend to have these positive dreams. And so what that's saying is that usually probably when you deal with your stuff, some of those blocks, those dreams will change. So it's not a negative haunting, because negative haunting would be negative dreams throughout your whole life. So it's just like, it's very interesting to note that and to get people to start understanding, what is this dream trying to tell me? What do I need to work on? And what am I avoiding? And so that's why that's a big thing, because a lot of people just talk about these comforting dreams, but it's these negative dreams that are also taking effect and like hindering people as they move forward.
Interesting. What about dreams that are not necessarily deceased loved ones, but could be still considered grief dreams? Like, let's say, laid off from a job or disaster, like after post-disaster dreams, or even like for me, I'm in, addiction recovery, and I'll have like using dreams, like 10 years, almost 10 years after, like 9 years after becoming clean and sober, which actually happened to be after watching The Secret that my sister gave me.
Oh, damn. Good for you.
Yeah. And my dad actually played a part in that whole, I call it divine intervention, but there was a weird story. I won't get into it here about dad sort of intervening at that point as well. But what about like other types of grief dreams, like people that have nightmares of their old workplace or disasters, or do you guys look at that as well?
No, I haven't looked at that. I really just focused on dreams after loss, like after someone passed away. Yeah. And so that's what that focus is. But there is these like other dreams that don't have the deceased loved one in it. Like those dreams can be very negative, like you're running by a mountain and it collapses on you or something. So it reflects your waking life issues in that way, like in symbolism. And so like after what I've read, like after like hurricane, like after like, different events that sort of you lose things, possessions, girlfriends, like divorce or job. Yeah. Well, you probably have more negative dreams and more imagery, and it would be very negative. So if you've, let's say lost your stuff to it, maybe a fire, forest fire, maybe searching for things, or reliving it again, something like that. Like after divorce, if someone's cheated on you, you may be reliving the person cheating on you, or the partners in the dream, with someone else, and it causes you discomfort. And so after trauma, you should be having, it's research has shown that negative dreams are what we should be having. Like it's very common. But after someone dies, they're not when it comes to the deceased being in the image. So that's what's fascinating about this area, is that it doesn't make sense with the rest of loss or the rest of different grief. So like there's something special about when the deceased is in the imagery, what it turns out to be. It tends to be more comforting. It tends to be more positive. And it doesn't make sense based on that, based on the other research. That's what I'm trying to say. So it makes a lot of people, and it should make a lot of people in different areas of dream research to trauma to grief, what's going on here? Because this shouldn't happen. So is this like a coping mechanism? Like what's going on? Because the brain's not allowing you to remember these negative dreams if you are even having them.
Yeah, or I mean, it could be pointing to evidence of, different dimensions and life after death, and us actually, this isn't just a physical reality. I mean, really, I feel like this is really important for that type of evidence, just like the psychic stuff or the precog evidence or lucid dreaming or OBEs or all that stuff. I mean, it seems to be, important research in that way, proving that this isn't just a materialistic world.
Yeah, and I think it helps a lot of people with that, because it's very difficult just with your own rationale to conceive of that. And I think when you have these experiences, it just gives you that extra support and extra experience to go to the next level in your faith or your belief, to really sort of, drive it home that it is real. And I think it helps some. I said, like, other people who have these dreams, it still helps them. So I think, because a lot of these dreams are positive, a lot of people say, even if they're not spiritual, one way it helps them is that their last memory of them is usually them suffering, if they're in a hospital or they're in a casket. And so it's not really a positive memory. And so what's going on, I think, too, is when you have these comforting dreams, now your last memory is a positive memory. So it could be also a memory play to as people move forward, to give you an experience so your last experience wasn't negative. Yeah, it's very interesting about this stuff. And unfortunately, we don't have the tools to sort of like prove if there's an afterlife or not. But, I think this is a good glimpse of what's going on in the minds of people, and it gives support to that for some people, but you can never prove it. Like, I always say, like, the only way to prove it, that these dreams, is like you'd have to talk to the deceased, and you can't really do that through, a scientific instrument. So because you can't, you're left with, how does it make you feel, and does it help you as you move forward? And I think that's the most important thing. On your journey is like, is it helping you? Cool. All right. Like, if it's a visitation or not, like that's up to you. And, like, I'm not going to tell you one way or another. I think a big issue is when people do have these experiences, they're really eager to jump on the boat on whatever they believe. So they want to, like, if they're not spiritual, they want to tell the person it's not a spiritual dream. But if they are spiritual, they want to jump and say it is a spiritual dream. And so I think it doesn't really matter. Like, if you're good with what you believe, allow them to believe whatever they need to.
So there doesn't seem to be, like, you don't have to believe. There doesn't seem to be that element of it. Do you notice, like, the same sort of numbers with believers and non-believers, or is that something you're even monitoring? So actually, there was one question that, is it because people are just spiritual, and so they have these dreams more often, and that has no effect. So your spirituality, that doesn't actually do anything. So, it's very interesting on that point where it's, everyone's having these. Doesn't matter really what you believe, like, for the most part. Everyone's having them, like, all different races. So we haven't found anything with all, genders, same thing. Like, doesn't have any effect. So, like, I think this is what's beautiful about this subject, is it crosses, like, all of humanity as a part of this. And they're having these experiences. Doesn't matter what culture you come from, like, they happen.
So I mean, proof will be very difficult. Evidence is different, because you could call a lot of this stuff anecdotal evidence, or at least some sort of evidence. But if we were to put all that aside and you were to speculate on the future in 20 years, or what we will know of scientifically, like, do you think we're on the road to proving something? Like, or have you must have thought about this, and I know it must be difficult, doing your PhD research and stuff. You don't really want to go out there on a limb, but I mean, on this podcast, we can speculate all we want. So is there any feeling that you have about where we're going to be at in 10, 20 years with all this?
Well, in 20 years, hopefully more people will be doing the research. But, I think, in 20 years, just even going to dream research, hopefully in 20 years, you'll be able to actually see what you're dreaming. And if you can start seeing what the person is dreaming in a lab setting. So there's been, like, some pilot studies that looked at this, and there's been some cool findings that they, like, they can understand some bits and pieces of what you're dreaming already, just through different methods and stuff. Anyways, wow. So I can see in 20 years that they'll be able to see what you're dreaming. And so if they can see what you're dreaming, if you're having one of these dreams, like, say, like a visitation dream, or what you would call it, they'd be able to figure out what parts of the brain are lighting up. And I think that would be a really big thing, because you can see, are they different in other dreams? And that's the first step, because you need to know that, and, like, what parts of the brain are firing, and, like, why is that? And I think that would be the way to, go about it. But yeah, that's, I think, the future of dreams for sure is to, and then it's like the inception stuff. You start like, then you, after you can see dreams, maybe you can manipulate them a little bit too.
What about the future of our culture though? Like what about our paradigm? Is that going to shift? Like with all this different research that you and others are doing?
I think, well, not many people are doing this, but when it comes to, I think, this topic, it's definitely pushing people to take the topic as valid. I think by walking that thin line between the two sort of, the people who don't and the people who do believe it's visitation, and you walk it like such a thin line between the two, basically saying, you're both right, What that does, I think, is it helps people to listen to the other side. And so I think it would help people start understanding the significance of these dreams in people's lives, so they start asking about it. And the sad thing is, right now, people don't get trained in this topic because there's no real research out there like before. So people that are helping the bereaved, they just don't know anything about it, so they don't talk about it and they avoid the subject. Yeah. And so like my goal is to say like, hey, like, there's research on this now. Now you can talk about the subject. Now we can actually start having conversations and allow people to share all the stuff and experiences that they're going through. And that will, in itself, will help people start maybe even believing more. But it's like without that research, people they don't take it as anything. And that's our culture. You need the research for it to be valid.
And there's probably not a lot of people that want to pay for the research.
Yeah, no. Well, there's a reason why people haven't done it, and I just can't figure out why. But here I am though, like doing this stuff, and I think it's great because like by doing this stuff and having people support it, I think it should be there should be a push in the academic literature, and then because of that, push in like the way people counsel and what people talk about. And it's so fascinating how many people have come up to me and say like they have never shared this dream. It's been 40 years. Like to me, that's so bizarre, like something that's so life-changing for them, and they've kept it a secret for so long because they're afraid of judgment. So I think first it's about like incorporating these dreams into just grief in general and what's common with that. And then we can take it to the next level. But if we don't acknowledge that they exist, well, how are we supposed to, see the different, parallels or to see the different sides of this stuff for people? So I think it's like first for them, for our culture, is to acknowledge that this exists and it's more common than people think. A couple studies I've done. So with when it came to after spousal loss, around 85% of people within the first year dreamt of the deceased person. And after pet loss, it was over 70%. So a huge number of people are dreaming of their loved ones. Even after a miscarriage, it's around 50%. So this is huge percentages, and yet no one's really taking it seriously. So I think those numbers are going to surprise a lot of people to make them actually start learning about the topic. And so, yeah, I'm excited for what the future holds when it comes to this topic, and what kind of impact it has on people's views and beliefs.
How far are we from me being able to like hook up to this machine, or Graham's laughing at me, or set it beside my bed and it like records all my dreams and I can watch them the next day, or it even like maybe it gives me a little highlight reel. Because I don't think
you gotta skip to the good parts.
Nobody remembers all their dreams, I don't think. Right? Nobody. It's not possible.
Yeah, there's too much going on. How long? And you said like you're hoping like you're thinking about 10 years. So the one research that's going on right now is what they do is they flash images in front of you, and then they map the brain pattern of, I think I'm saying this right, the brain pattern of what lights up when you look at different images. And then this person is dreaming. If those similar neurons sort of light up, then they understand that you're dreaming of that. And so what they do is they wake you up and say, "What are you dreaming about?" And they say, "Oh, I'm dreaming of a red car." "Oh, cool. You're dreaming of a car based on your neurons." So that's very it's a start, but there's so much more because they don't know how it interplays. So you're dreaming of a car or a monkey, but is the monkey driving the car? Is the car running over a monkey? Like, you don't know. And so I think 5-10 years, I think that'd be a huge push, and probably be the next big advancement in the field. But yeah, that'd be really cool to sort of see that. Then you'd be able to record your dreams. That'd be interesting. Because technology is just like booming, right? Like you just don't know the iPhone and everything and how it, virtual reality and stuff.
Man, if you could get to the point where it can interpret present like a visual image of what you're dreaming, then imagine the shortcomings of our language that's going to suddenly start to show, when people can start to, because coming with that, then people can start to like, is your version of, like, is your dream world projected the same as my dream world, or is your sky off a little bit, or it could get interesting, or when people are sort of explaining different things to each other. I wonder how that would work. I wonder if it'd be like, if it could transcend language in some weird sort of way.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see how it compares with other cultures and stuff, like your dream with theirs. But yeah, I've asked people this, like, would you want to know what you're dreaming? And I've seen a lot of people said no, because I guess the thoughts in waking life are pretty crazy. So the dream world would probably just be the same.
Oh man, I'd totally love it. I have the crazy adventure. I have crazy adventure dreams, and I wake up and I'm like trying to grasp it and trying to remember it all. And it was just, and I'm usually, even if it gets scary, there's a calm there. Like I don't really get scared in dreams either. Even with nightmare, Darren's rolling his eyes. Even with nightmares, I kind of just know they're nightmares or something, and like just roll with it.
Oh, that's interesting.
I feel
really a nightmare then,
yeah. Yeah, it's almost impossible to have a nightmare. Where I get scared, like really scared in the dream. I mean, I get like excited and stuff, and maybe like
that's wild.
Yeah, but I feel like we're gonna get
fear anything in waking life. Like I'm that's interesting.
Not really.
Like, oh, okay, yeah. So
Darren,
unless a fucking bug flies into the room, then look out.
You say a butterfly?
A bug? No, any sort of bug will probably.
A creepy looking bug landed on me last weekend, and it freaked me out a bit. But it wasn't fear; it was more of just disgust or something. I don't know. But I feel like as far as technology goes, we're going to be able to intercept something like how we visually see dreams. Like something will just be able to record what we see somehow.
Yeah, that would be really cool, and then you can share it on Facebook.
Yeah,
my highlight reel.
Could you imagine? Dream book. It'll be its own separate thing.
Yeah, Dream Book. Yeah, Facebook Dream Book. Yeah.
Yeah, Dream Book. There you go. You should patent that now.
Oh shit! I'm gonna register that URL.
Dreambook.ca.
Patent pending. So what's like? Is the grief dreams like the tip of the spear? Or is it gonna be because you're a fairly young guy? Is this like, are you down the dreams sort of, is that gonna be your research sort of path? And if so, like, is it just gonna be grief dreams, or what's your plan, I suppose? What's your future hold for you?
Oh, that's a good question. If only I had a dream to tell me. So the big plan is, like this is my bread and butter. Like I've labeled myself sort of like grief dreams researcher. And so, I want to continue being a part of the research. I don't know if I'm not going to like work at a university because I have so much else I need to do to raise awareness, but I want to like fund a lab to be able to continue to do this stuff because I have a ton of ideas and what we need to do to move it forward. But like that's it, like my main goal is to raise awareness, to really get the culture to understand the significance of this and that it's safe to talk about this stuff in a neutral way. And so I doing this podcast, do a lot of interviews. I want to do a lot of talks and workshops with people, tend to be very good at that, and it helps people. The big thing that I found with people who work with the bereaved is you can talk to them all day, but without them actually doing it hands-on, they don't feel comfortable. So I'd probably do something like that and do that. And then also just have like a hub. So I started the griefdreams.ca website as basically a hub for all information on grief dreams to filter through, to give someone like a one-stop shop, not just my research, but like anything else that's going on there in the field. So people have that as a starting block, I think is great. So people all over the world can find it easily. And after that, it's just like, doing these talks, doing the workshops, and, writing books, and, who knows, maybe there's a documentary out there.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is the sky's the limit with this subject. I think like there's people doing a lot of stuff around the peripheral that'll overlap, but just to have this, so much ground to cover on this that hasn't really been dug up yet. I mean, that's great. I mean, one of the reasons we started this podcast, or at least I did, is to talk about all this stuff in a non-judgmental way, just like you're talking about. Like people, share their experiences here with us, and we read them on the air, and we talk about our own experiences without judgment. And I think that's a big thing that's happening in our society right now. So, just having platforms to discuss this stuff and not be judged or, be criticized or ridiculed or anything like that. I think that's really important. So can you talk a little bit more about your podcast and what kinds of episodes you have on there?
Yeah. So same thing you guys. I wanted a place to be able to actually talk about the subject in a sort of a safe space to give people more of what my research can't, which is sort of this qualitative nature of these stories about their dreams and how they affected people and how it affects their life. And so actually it was my buddy, Sean Ram, who really wanted to do a podcast. And I'm like, well, this is the only thing I'm really good at right now. So we put our two brains together and came up with this. And it's actually been really cool. It's been a really good process, and met a bunch of new people and through it, and just learned a ton more about, people's journey with these dreams. And I always like to ask at the end, what dreams people want to have, because I think that is just as important, because it tells something about what you're longing for in waking life and what you haven't received or what you want a little bit more of. And, I think that's cool. So it'd be that's sort of the thing we're just filming or doing our 50th episode. And so we just really started this year, the beginning of the year. So it's been fun. It's been a fun little journey. And then the Grief Dreams Facebook group is another place that I sort of put up because there's no place people could talk about their dreams together. And so this is a place where people can comment on each other's dreams and, share their dream experiences, positive or negative. And, I'm always there to help answer some questions, especially when it comes to the negative dreams, to get people understanding. I think, it's amazing to sort of see people come together as a community on this stuff, because that's something that, it's close to my heart for many reasons. So it's nice to see this stuff, occur. So yeah, if you have your own sort of dreams, join the Facebook group, and feel free to listen to the Grief Dreams podcast when you get a chance, because there's just good stories in there.
Do you have to be local or to participate in the experiments?
Oh no. In the experiment? Oh, in the studies?
Yeah, could we enroll Graham?
Yeah, he's got some experiences. Yeah, so right now I do a lot of my data collection online, which is a great way to get a large number of participants really fast. So we go through MTurk, which is nice. And so, that's how I collect my data. So, but yeah, to do the experiment stuff, in a lab, you need to be close by, and I'm not there yet. And I'd also need a sleep lab, which I don't have, and a bunch of funding, which I don't have yet. So once those things happen, bring Darren in the lab, and we'll
no.
do some
Graham's the lab guy. What kind of stuff would you do in a lab, I guess?
The one who points someone out is the one who goes first.
Yeah, Darren can't remember dreams. He's he smokes a bit too much.
Medicine.
Is that what it is?
Medicine,
yeah. Hey, so I want to actually talk about a couple dreams. I got a couple dreams here I want to share.
Absolutely.
To people, because people love dreams, right? So the first one is just a transformational power of these dreams. So here's a guy that basically lost his friend to suicide.
Power.
And so here's his dream. I found myself back in grade one class. All my friends and buddies were there. We were all kids again. I was seeing one old friend after another in this classroom setting. I knew I was dreaming, and I knew my deceased friend could be there like everyone else. I should mention prior to this that this guy was, after his friend committed suicide, he went to a spiral depression, and he became a drug addict, using drugs. His relationship was on the fritz, and he said he probably wouldn't have lasted if his wife wasn't there to actually support him. And so I'm going to continue on with this dream. So I looked, turned around, and he was sitting directly behind me with the most amazing smile, and his thumb was up, telling me he was okay. And he said, I should mention that he was approximately 35, which was his actual age when he passed away. He said the dream felt so real, so vivid, that I can still see him smile today.
Wow.
I woke up that morning feeling incredible, like a new lease on life. I felt joy again, and I got my shit together. That dream helped me out of my darkest days. And so you said you recovered because of the secret. This guy recovered because of the dream of his, of his loved one,
oh, right, yeah.
of his friend, right? So it's fascinating, the transformational power. It's people do a 180 with this stuff. And so here's another one. I know you guys like your precog dreams. I should have shared when we talked about precog. But so here's a dream. And it's funny too, because when it comes to precog, you know, like I can't really look at that because, you know, like I look at grief dreams, which, you know, the thing is you have to know they're dead before we can call it a grief dream.
Oh, yeah, right.
So this one has a little bit of both in it. So that's why I could collect it. So it was a mother that had the dream. I went down to the basement to take a shower. As I was walking towards the shower, I turned around and my daughter, who is deceased, and her boyfriend, which is still alive, were standing there at my basement door. I asked her, how are you doing? What are you doing here? She said her boyfriend came to say goodbye. I said, goodbye? Where are you going? My daughter said, he has to go to school like me. I reply, aren't you finished with school yet? No, Mom, it is just like it is here. You go to school, you learn something, then you move on to another school and learn more. I said, okay. Her boyfriend gave me a hug and said goodbye, and then they left. And it was about 2 months later, the boyfriend passed away and died.
Wow.
So you had this, like, this dream was like telling her what life, like, you know, the purpose of life with her daughter, but she also, like, the guy was saying goodbye, you know, about 2 months earlier. And so you're just like, oh my God, like, there's just like, wow, like how crazy it is. And like, we're going off the word that they're telling me the truth. And so given that to be the case, you're just like, it just makes you sit in the mystery of life.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love those.
And if that's true, like, you just keep learning stuff. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, very, very much so. Yeah, we're all connected, it seems, in some way.
Yeah, it's a very interesting life we live. And so here's another dream. So this one's it's going to something we haven't talked about yet, about a dream being continued almost, or a deceased visiting two people at the same time. So this is yeah, it's good. It gets good. So this was a daughter who lost her father. And so this dream was about my father. We talked in the dream about him and my mom, and that she needs him to come to her in the night and hug her and let her know that he is there. And so usually with dreams, it's the deceased that's comforting the dreamer. Here, the dreamer is telling the deceased what to do, which is very interesting. So anyways, the next morning, my mom called and thought I would think she was crazy, as she told me that Dad came to her in the night, hugged her, told her that he loved her. I said, I talked to Dad last night in my dreams and asked him to do that. And of course, we both cried. It's just like, what? It just makes you go like, what is going on here?
Exactly. That's just too coincidental. You can't just say that's chance, you know? I mean, those are the types of stories that really, really make you realize like something else is going on.
Swamp gas. So you mentioned the Facebook page. Are you on any other social medias or Twitter or anything like that, or YouTube or anything like that? Where
no, I haven't gotten to the video yet. That's like, I guess my next step is to start actually recording myself visually. But yeah, I have Twitter. But the thing I love the most is Instagram right now. So if you go at Grief Dreams. And I just have the funnest time making memes. It's just like, once I realized like you could use your creativity in it, like I go wild with this stuff. And I use a lot of like watching movies. Like that's one of my like go-to things to do. And so if I ever see a grief dream in there, I get to post it. I get to make memes from like the characters. I even have like these fake interviews I do with some of the characters who like lose people, like what dreams they probably would have if they could. And so, yeah, it's just it's a good time. But what's interesting, I think, is that our culture, I haven't mentioned this yet, but our culture is way ahead of the research. Usually research goes out there and the culture picks up on it. But this is like the culture has been so far ahead. And just looking at like just movies that are out there, in the last year, there's been like 7 or 8 movies that actually had grief dreams in it. So you have Collateral Beauty. You have Pete's Dragon, Manchester by the Sea, The Shack, Ghost in the Shell, Beauty and the Beast. The Beast had a grief dream. King Arthur, full of grief dreams. War of Planet of the Apes. One of the apes have a grief dream of, you know, so you're looking at this stuff like, oh my God, like this is like, there's a movement coming, or there's a movement happening, because all these movies are showcasing grief dreams very accurately, I might say too. And so whoever's writing this stuff probably had their own experiences, because the research, they wouldn't be able to get any research on it. So I think that's really interesting. And even, are you guys Big Bang Theory fans?
No, I'm not. No, not really.
I've seen most of them. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there's actually 2 episodes where Sheldon has a grief dream. So his friend Dr. Proton passed away. I don't know if you remember that episode.
No,
and, like, he doesn't.
What season was that? I cut my cable years ago.
So there's season 7 was the first one.
I don't know if I remember.
Okay,
that.
yeah. If you haven't seen it because it's about half the episodes is grief dream that he has. So like he loses his friend Dr. Proton, and so he doesn't go to the funeral and he goes to bed instead. And he has this like wonderful, very funny but very comforting dream. And it takes like 10 minutes, and he goes through this thing. And I think it's amazing. I saw that. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, it's such a blockbuster show, and showcasing the comforting effects of these dreams. And then like 2 seasons later, he has another dream. And what's fascinating, it wasn't about his grief. It was about something different. And I think and we haven't talked about this yet, how dreams change over time. But so this time it was like Sheldon was having difficulties with wanting to have sex with Amy. And so Dr. Proton comes to help him and reassure him and like give him advice and stuff about that. And so, which is kind of cool, because that's how what I've seen is that dreams sort of shift like that. How it's about your loss, or what you're longing, like what you need to help your grief. And then once that's sort of like good, you'll have sort of these dreams where they're still like vivid and very comforting, but now they're talking about problems that you're going through. Let's say if you had a breakup, well, it's talking about the breakup. If you have another thing, you have problem solving, they come to you. And so it's very interesting to see how they do change over time, and you're not getting the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, that just reminded me of another one of my sisters and my dad. So my sister was going to quit her pool league. She plays in a pool league. And my dad came to her in a dream and gave her a pool cue and a dress. And she ended up playing in 2 different leagues this year instead. And another one of those just like many shifts. And it's not like she was
Does she dress
now
up
I'm
nice to go to pool?
Well, she might argue that one a little bit. I think she's taken that in a different.
Nice. There's a nice boy there.
That's funny. Yeah. So
that's so interesting.
Yeah, and that's why I agree with what you say there about our culture, and that's why it kind of frustrates me. I don't want to say annoy or pisses me off, but it frustrates me that our scientific paradigm is so far behind. And I know that the evidence isn't there, but it's just the lack of acceptance. You still have this, we're really still run by the skeptical materialist paradigm. And our culture and our people believe and people know that there's something else there. But that's why I kind of asked you about those, those sort of paradigm questions, because I feel like it's important. I feel like we're in a schizophrenic society, and our culture it believes this, and our people, the people believe in this stuff, but yet it's not accepted in our, in our academia and scientific, materialism yet.
Yeah. And that's why I said, like, people look at research to validate that it's something worthwhile.
Yeah.
Or it exists. And so I think that's why it's great. The work that I'm doing is really showcasing that you can study this stuff, and doesn't, you could look at how people's, views of these, I did for my MA thesis, how people sort of viewed these dreams and why they're memorable. And that's one stuff, but this is more of the quantitative data that they're really looking for.
Yeah.
And that's what they really take seriously. So it's like finding a question that needs to be answered. And this is sort of right there, right in their alley. So next it's going to be like, what factors predict dreaming of having a comforting dream versus a negative dream?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking your trauma, grief, even your attachment styles probably predict what kind of dream imagery that you're having.
Mm-hmm.
And so all that sort of stuff is going to be, also a new push in this field, because those are, you say, like, the huge questions that people are asking, and no one has sort of the answer. So it's nice how we're going to have like the first glimpse, and then you have to also, you got to replicate the stuff and do it with different populations, because people with different types of losses have different type of dreams. And so I'll share a little bit with child loss. So if someone loses a child, what's very interesting about these dreams and how they're different from those, let's say if you lose a spouse, is that when you lose a child, a lot of times you're playing. And with adult dreams, like if you lose an adult, no one's ever playing. Like it's so interesting. How about with children, you're playing, and I'm like, man, like this is crazy because it just showcases how we're so serious. Like what we need is like we do a lot of words with adults, right? But with kids, they love to play, and that's what gave us comfort when we have that relationship with that bond. And so we're just not playing enough, I think, as adults anymore. Like we don't have that kid spirit. So that's the one thing. The other thing is that what's really unique is the kids. If you lose a child, you may dream of them as if they're growing up in waking life. So if they die at 2, in 2 years, you're dreaming that they're 4, and then on and on. But when it comes to, let's say, if you lose your parent, you're not dreaming of them as they get older, like more gray hair in a wheelchair, like that doesn't, I've never seen that yet. But what I've seen is the opposite. So they go down, so they go back to a point where they're healthy. So if they died when they're 90, they could be more like 40 or 30.
Yeah.
And so I think that's very interesting. It's just an interesting like tidbit of, what's going on here? Because it's a theme, right? Like I can only say like this theme exists.
Exactly.
And then other people can sort of say like, that's weird. Why would that occur? Same thing with pets. Like what's interesting with pets is that it has a similar theme with children, is that there's a lot of playing going on. I've only seen a couple dreams where the pet actually talks to the owner. It's a dream world, right? And so I guess the one dog told the owner that it's okay for him to get a new dog, which I think that was fascinating. So it must have been something that he was, debating. But yeah, so the dog actually told him that. So it's just like, you're like, wow, like, so like how they get you, or how these dreams get you to change behaviors in waking life is very, very interesting. And I should also mention, because you said something that I want to say. I want to comment about the belief shit, how people's beliefs can shift. Yeah. So a dream came back to me that someone told me. And so it was a very comforting dream. They basically told them they're okay, that they loved them. Anyways, the feeling in the dream when they woke up, they weren't religious and they didn't believe in an afterlife, but that dream made them question that. And so because they questioned that, they looked for a religion to make sense of the afterlife. I think is very interesting so not only like your behaviors change, but like your belief system and structure can change. Some people it doesn't, but like this person, it did. And I think that's interesting in itself, because it can also lead people to sort of this belief that maybe they didn't have before.
Wow. Yeah, I think your research is really important, and it's got implications for therapy, it seems, as well. I mean, there's all these different types of therapy that people are doing, whether it's past lives or even grief therapy and all this kind of stuff. If people could use your research and help people through their dreams or through the grieving process by acknowledging or even just accepting their dreams, that might be huge.
Yeah, I think it will. Like, and I said, like my research already has shown that, people are getting great comfort from this stuff. And there are also people who have these negative dreams, are very worried. And they need to talk about them. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, like as a therapy in itself, it's, that's why I really want to train these people to start asking the question, because there's a lot of good information that they could use in where to focus their time, because you could focus, there's so many issues in grief you could focus on, but the dream's really telling you about a specific point to focus on. And there's reason for that. And I think if we can actually look at that and start talking about this stuff more openly, man, like I think it's going to be easier for people to start healing than it was before. And I should also
go ahead.
I was going to mention too that, so these are the dreams I started talking about, dreams. We talked about dreams right after loss. We talked about dreams like sort of a little after, how they sort of change to where you are. But there's also dreams at end of life. I haven't looked at these specifically, but there has been some research on that area, which is really nice. And so these dreams usually have the deceased there and present, but they actually reassure the person that they're going to be there or they're waiting for them. And so it helps people actually transition from life to death. I think so it gives them that comforting feeling that they can let go.
Wow. So, what was I going to say there about that? That last part there. I lost it. Deceased. Yeah,
I can come to you in a dream tonight.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's really good. It's really. Oh, I know. Carl Jung. Did he talk about grief dreams at all?
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny you bring it up. So he he did write a book, and so he did his own dream work, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of Jungians are trained in the way to analyze dreams. And so at first, so when he first developed this stuff, he would have said, and he did say, that dreams of the deceased are just a part of the psyche.
Yeah.
Just like everything else.
Yeah.
And so a lot of Jungian psychologists and people who do Jungian dream interpretation, when they look at someone's dream, they don't ever say it's a visitation. They don't go there. I think it's a very, very bad thing, because now if you tell the person that, you're diminishing their own experience. It's like when I've had pastors say to people who have a dream of the deceased that it's the devil. So like imagine something comforting turning then into something that's not comforting.
Yeah. Or
something that made you feel like there was something more and made you feel they were safe, and now you're taking that away. It's just stupid. It's just really bad. It's very bad advice. So people just don't understand what they're doing. And so, some Jungian psychologists will go there and just say it's just a part of the psyche. And, but what's interesting is a lot of them, with a lot of people I've met that, do this stuff, they don't know that when he was getting older, he actually wrote on this again. And when he did, he said basically that his dream that he had after his wife passed away started helping him believe and a little bit in something that it could be something more. And then he started hearing stories about this stuff, which was a little more different than he experienced. And he said, if we were going to study the afterlife, the first place he would start was with these dreams of the deceased.
Wow.
And so that's his statement. That was one of his last writings before he died. And so he started thinking about, interesting. So how his life changed after his own wife passed away and his dreams changed. So it's so Jung would say that this is a good point to actually a good topic to look at, to try to figure out what is the afterlife, and what is it based on?
Yeah.
And what happens? What happens to the guy? There is I do have a dream that someone actually had a question in waking life of what dying was like. And it was just on their minds. Anyway, so their child passed away and they had this dream. And so this woman asked, I asked how heaven is. And her son, it's so beautiful. It's such an amazing place. I am so happy there and free of pain. I see grandpa and grandma from time to time. Then I asked, what's dying like? And he said, it's so dark at first. I couldn't see a thing. Then some really nice guy came and met me. He shook my hand and said, come with me. It wasn't God or Jesus. I can't remember his name. And then what seemed like a really long time, he opened a door, and it was the most beautiful place you could ever see. I'm so happy there. And so this dream, not only comforted her because she got to see her son, she was okay, but also helped her with answering that question, what dying is like. So now she knows as she sort of, moves forward in life. So it'd be cool if there's a lot of dreams. So you start getting similar dream themes like that. It could point a direction into, especially through different cultures, it could point a direction into what's maybe going on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we did talk quite a bit about, becoming lucid in a dream and asking your higher self or asking the one consciousness or whatever, those questions, and getting some really profound answers. So yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So, and when you go to different cultures, what's interesting is people have different interpretations on what these dreams are based on your religion. Yeah. And so there has been an article that talked about the Cambodian belief, and which is Buddhism, and basically Buddhism believed in reincarnation. So this author basically was writing and said that when people had these dreams, comforting dreams, same thing, like they tell them they love them, they're okay. It's actually when they wake up, the dreamer is actually discomforted by that because they think it's a sign that they're not reincarnated, and non-reincarnated souls can actually impact your health of you and your soul and your body. And so they perform these merits to try to get them reincarnated. So it's very interesting. And so I thought, all people who are Buddhists believe that. And then I've realized along the way, it's not true. So even within different religions, people have very different views on this stuff. So another person, remember that was Buddhist, I asked them about it, and they said, no, it was a comforting dream. They're just, they'll reincarnate when it's time. It's not a big deal. I'm like, oh, okay. The other one said, oh, like they've reached nirvana. They don't have to. It's like, well, that's convenient. Like, so, and, and so like you see, like their interpretation has a big belief. So I think even how you interpret the dream, it's not even based on your religion, but how you interpret it can say a lot about who you are.
Yeah, for sure.
So be positive.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. And if people tell you something different, question why they're saying that. Because it said like so the bad advice, I'd like to get to that too. I said like how like pastors will believe that this is the devil trying to trick you, which is very interesting. But there's nothing, like I said, there's nothing in the Bible for that to support that. And to go against that, I've seen a bunch of dreams of the deceased that have Jesus with the person. So it's really funny to, talk to these pastors because I would always go with, so do you believe Jesus can visit? They always say yes. And then when you say the deceased, they say no. But then what happens when they're together? And then they're like, and then they have nothing to say. They just don't know, right? They just don't know.
But I mean, that could be a really good way to change the paradigm of that religious paradigm, is to talk to these pastors and give them this stuff and say, look, like, stop the fear mongering.
Yeah, and I think that's one study as we move forward, is to really showcase that there is this divide in all religions about how people view these dreams, because that's something they should maybe get together on and talk about, because it's so common after loss. Yeah. So that's a big one. Even like, doctors. So there's different doctors. Where I was talking to this one guy, and his doctor basically told him his dreams of the deceased were because of medication he was on, which has no validity whatsoever. There's no scientific research on that. But the guy thought they were meaningful. And so he was basically downplaying his meaningful experience. So it was great that I got to talk to him, because I got to shed meaning on his dream and say, no, like you're accurate. And so it's kind of nice to actually have more seniority than like, medical doctor for once. And so that was nice. So it was nice. But like you see all this like bad judgment going on. People will say some crazy stuff. I remember I had one person even say, like, if you dream of multiple dead people in the dream, it means someone close to you is going to die. Like, it was just, I'm like, what? Like, where do people come up with this stuff? But I guess that's maybe like she heard it along the way. You'd think she probably didn't just make it up. But like, and then I go and I told her, and I told the person, like other people too, that what my research shows is when you have multiple people, deceased relatives in your dream, it actually represents healing is occurring. Because usually in the beginning, it's more one-on-one, because that's probably what you need. But then you have other deceased people will come around. And so that's more comforting, like to say someone's going to die, people will go crazy with that. They may think they're going to die, so it's like really understand, like people will think the worst of a lot of situations. And so it's like, you really have to watch what you say and what advice, even though you think it may be helpful, it may not actually be, it may actually hurt them in the process.
Well said. Well, I suppose that's,
it's probably a good place to.
It's probably a good place to wrap it up. A good bit to digest there. This is an interesting avenue that not a lot of people are going down. So I'd be interested to check back with you in a year.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, time flies by so much. Like when are you? This is your last year in your for your PhD.
Yeah. So I have to finish this one study, and then I have to write it up, and then more or less be done. So it'd probably be by the end of next summer, I'm thinking, around that time. And then, you can call me doctor after that. Yeah, man,
you should come back on when you start your next, whatever your next like level of research is after you get your doctorate. And we should do this again. I mean, I think you're really doing some important work here and fascinating work, and it kind of complements a lot of the other stuff we talk about all the time. And really looking forward to seeing where this is going to go.
Thanks. I appreciate the warm welcome to come back on, because really a lot of issues when it comes to people when they do research is no one knows about it until years later. And I think now it's because like you had this podcast, like I get to share some details that no one would ever know. Exactly. And so, thank you for having me on and willing for me to come back on to share what's going on. It really helps people actually learn about the topic and take it more seriously. Yeah, for sure. And we'll put all the links to all your stuff in the show notes. And at least 17 people know now. Yeah. Yeah. Every person counts. Yeah. That's right. Okay. Thanks, Joshua. You have a great night. All right. Thanks. You too. Take care. Bye.